Hey guys, my name is Kendrick and welcome to ENFP Mail. Today I get to interview Rachel Dennison. Did I say that correctly?
Yep, Rachel Dennison.
Awesome. So Rachel, welcome to the interview. A pleasure to get a chance to have this conversation with you. I'd like to first ask you, what is your MBTI personality type?
Well, according to Dave and Shannon, it's INTJ. Before I came across objective personality, I had a bunch of different ideas, but that's the one I'm going with now.
And what about your op type? Like, what is your exact breakdown of your...
It would be NITE, masculine, feminine, blast, sleep, consume, with no play.
So play is barely
Yes.
inexistent. And that sounds about as just a very standard, what an INTJ would be described as, because, you're using your blast, which is your NI and your TE together, essentially your first two functions, and then kind of like your sleep, which is, your first and your third, right? So it's quite a standard as it gets.
Yeah, there's no jumping going on or anything.
Yeah, no glass lizard or any of that.
I'm, however, the only one of my exact type that they have typed. So even though it's pretty standard, it seems there hasn't yet been another person of that exact type.
So a lot of the standard INTJs are missing, or maybe they don't exist.
Yeah.
Who knows? So I want to kind of ask you about the NITE stuff first.
Sure.
You have feminine TE, meaning you're quite flexible with the tribe, and you're also tribe above self. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. That was the first one that I figured out, that I really figured out before I got my official typing video back. Once I started to understand objective personality, the first thing that struck me was, feminine extroverted thinking. Because I'd always kind of been confused about what I could be in Myers-Briggs, because I was kind of F-ish, I thought, and like a bunch of people thought I was an F, but the people who knew me really well all thought I was a T, and it seemed to be kind of in between there. And I think partly that's because those are my middle two functions, are F and T, so I can kind of go back between them. But also because my extroverted decider is feminine, so there's that little bit more. Some people, I think of T as being this kind of
boom,
more more flowy and easygoing, I guess. So some people in the past have thought that was an F for me. But yeah, it's very clear that I'm feminine to me, like a feminine extroverted decider. That was obvious. I'm very easygoing and stuff with my other people's opinions and my opinions and all that. And yeah, so the time when I realized that I was an extroverted decider, because I'd kind of thought of myself as being an introverted decider before then. But I realized when I was talking to other people about my OP personality type and guessing what I could be, every time someone came up with an idea for me, I would go with that one. I'd think, oh yeah, that's probably right. It's probably that one. And then a new person would say, oh, I think it's this. And I'd say, oh yeah, actually, I think maybe that one's right. And I kind of move my opinion to match whoever was talking to me, basically. And I thought, oh, this is extroverted deciding. It's about everyone else's opinions instead of my own reasons.
Would you say people thought you were an introverted decider, or maybe you thought you were an introvert decider, and maybe some people thought you weren't an INTJ, because you have that double activated introverted feeling?
Yeah. Yeah. I think mostly it was yeah, no, that would help.
And it's also masculine. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's double activated and it's masculine. So it is strong, although I can definitely tell it's a demon too. Like there's definitely sort of demon issues with the FI.
And what kind of demon issues that was really, obvious to you?
Well, it's always been hard for me to tell people my own feelings about things, I guess. Like Dave and Shannon, when they watched my video, they noticed that I was like blah 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 blah, blasting away, whatever, talking about stuff, and then I started talking about my my personal feelings about something, and all of a sudden I kind of, I don't know, went inward and kind of was really shy and uncomfortable, and like, yeah, I also feel this about this thing, and this is what I feel, and it was like a very obvious difference. And so it feels like this kind of small, uncomfortable thing that it feels weird to tell other people what I feel about something. As much as it is masculine, like it is what I feel, and that's what I feel, but it's weird to talk about it, I guess.
So you feel some insecurity kind of like sharing how you feel about something, or like talking about your values?
Yeah, it feels very strange. I've growing up, especially, I had this friend who would always talk about, her favorite characters, her favorite movies, blah, blah, blah. And I always knew what my favorite movie was, or my favorite character, always, but I never told her ever, I don't think, or rarely, because I couldn't, yeah, I couldn't get there.
Wow, that's very interesting. Is it also because you have that feminine extrovert decider? Like maybe you were a little bit shy to kind of express yourself as a result?
Yeah, for sure. And I always think that other people are probably right, I guess. Like if they're really strong about something, like this is definitely the best, I think, oh, okay, well, I guess that must be the best. And it's hard to disagree with that.
So because of that feminine extrovert thinker, how does that manifest kind of like in your workplace? What do you do for a living, by the way?
Currently, I am a ESL, so English as a second language teacher.
Okay.
I used to be a programmer, computer programmer.
Sounds like a typical INTJ kind of job.
And it was really fun. I love programming. It's really fun, the problem solving part of it. But I really didn't like, I guess, sitting at a computer all day. It was getting really dragging me down a lot. And I would spend so much of the day just daydreaming about running in the sunshine. And teaching, of course, isn't running in the sunshine either, but it's just a little bit more not sitting at a computer. So it's good. It's fun.
Do you teach in a class, or is it like one-on-one, like tutoring kind of?
It's mostly one-on-one. Sometimes there's classes.
And how are you enjoying that? Like,
It's good. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to try and explain things, and because you're so limited, right? So that gives you an interesting challenge. If it's English as a second language, you're so limited in the words you can use. So you're trying to explain these concepts with such a limited vocabulary, and It's kind of a puzzle, I guess, and it's different for every student too, which makes it interesting and different.
How did you go from programming to teaching English as a second language? That's quite a completely different field there, and that's very anti-NI almost, because it's like it's completely different topics,
Yeah, it's pretty blasty though. I mean, they often use the word teaching with blast.
Right.
So I think it still has an element of that, and the problem solving part is, it actually reminds me in my brain of the problem solving part of programming, computer programming. I mean, it's very different obviously, but there's a little bit of the same thing, like, okay, here's a problem, and now let's get at it, explore all these different areas and try and figure out exactly. I could talk a long time about how they're similar, how they feel similar to me, but it definitely feels like there's a similarity. What was your question again?
Well, I mean, my question was that how did you jump from
Right.
programming to ESL? Because that's quite a, like I said, it was quite different. I mean, you kind of explained why you feel like it's kind of the same.
Yeah, I explained a little bit, not really, but I was sitting there at a computer day after day, daydreaming about not being there in an office. And so I thought, and I was lucky that at the time I didn't have any commitments in life, really. I wasn't really settled in the city I was living in, and I didn't have a partner or children or anything, and I didn't have a lot of money, but I had enough that it wasn't a huge worry or anything. So I decided to quit, and I went to this farm in the middle of nowhere in Canada, and I worked on there, and it's a kind of unique place, and they let you live there for free if you work for them. So I worked for them. I worked on this farm. I took some time to just kind of figure out more what I wanted with my life. And I didn't exactly figure it out, but I did realize how much I loved teaching. So I started teaching music. I got a job while I was there teaching music. And then I went from teaching music to teaching English as a second language.
Okay, well, I just, like, multiple questions just pop in my head. So I need to ask you two questions then.
Yeah.
And then you can answer them in any order that you would like.
Mm-hmm.
So the first question I have is, when you were in that office and you were kind of imagining not being in the office,
Yeah.
I heard you say you want to be running in the sun.
Yeah.
That sounds very kind of like extrovert sensing, like you almost like you wanted to just move and kind of explore that, like, your demon function almost, and it's masculine too, which I find very fascinating. So so tell us more about kind of like your demon function, your extrovert sensing. Like, do you really like it? Because you also, so my follow-up question then is, you taught music, and I was wondering what kind of music you taught, but also, is it directly correlated to your sexual modalities, which is MF? So that means you're very audio kinesthetic. That means you have a very good ear for music. Despite being an extremely left brain person, when you do tap into your right brain, it seems to come in the form of music or sounds. So let's go with the first question first, and then you can mix and match however you want to answer it. There's
a relationship between the two questions. So they're both about the extroverted sensing. And honestly, that's been the one that's hard for me to wrap my brain around. I don't know if I really get extroverted sensing or what it means for me exactly. It feels a little bit shadowy, maybe.
Well, variety is one thing. So it seems like, you had 3 different jobs within a time span, the programming, working in a farm, and then teaching English, and they're all completely different, and that seems very, like, it almost feels like you had it's like a quiet tidal wave, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. Like, because extrovert sensing is all about variety, right? Like the new, and clearly those are all new and they're all different stuff. And it seems like you had a tidal wave, but it was so quiet that it didn't seem like a tidal wave. I don't know if I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. So okay. So I don't really know if it was a tidal wave there, and I know that I often will crave variety, which is one reason why I didn't think I was NI at first, like a long time ago. I get it now, but I was thinking I was NE because I saw the N part of things, but I thought, oh, I love variety and I love doing new things and learning things and daydreaming about running in the sun. But well, let's talk about the way that it's SE has manifested being demon has manifested for me. So one of the ways that Dave and Shannon noticed my demon SE was I tended to wave away, like I'd say, oh, and stuff, and just kind of wave away the details of something and not bother explaining about it. Explaining kind of the factual details, I guess. I don't think I've done that too much this interview. I don't know, but it is pretty common for me. That and that even though I like variety and I like new things and new experiences and all that, anxiety is one of the biggest troubles of my life, I guess. Like if everything isn't known in the future, I get a lot of anxiety about that. And I know you can have anxiety if you don't have a demon SE or any, but I think for me, they're definitely related. Like I have this plan all out in my head, and even if I go and do something new, I kind of have it all set up still. But there's always this fear that I'm missing something. Like who knows when something could come up and bite me, I guess, that I hadn't anticipated. And how am I supposed to know what's going to happen? Like, I don't know. There's too many possibilities, and who knows? So many of them could happen, and I can't prepare for all of them. Yeah. I think there's also a bit of maybe peacocking or something with like that thing of I daydream about running in the sun all the time, but do I actually do it? No, I don't do it. I want to. And sometimes like my dad organizes these big, long, like week-long hikes and stuff, and I've done a few of those because I had the kind of force of someone else saying, yeah, do this.
Did you enjoy those hikes?
Yeah, it's amazing. I love them. But it's not something that's easy for me to do on my own naturally, even though I daydream about it all the time. And I kind of think of myself as being, yeah, I'm one of those people that does adventures.
Yeah.
And I do sometimes, but yeah. Oh yeah, okay. And then you were talking about, oh yeah, so one of the fuzziest parts to me is the audio, how that's connected. I never thought of myself as being an audio sort of person, and even though I'm really good at music, I taught classical voice and classical piano when I was a teacher. I don't know. I'm good at it, but it's not exactly a love of mine. And in their video, Dave and Shannon didn't really explain how I was audio exactly. And I was a class member and I haven't been able to for the last little bit. So maybe they've explained more about it that I've missed, but I haven't really been able to apply that part to me because it doesn't seem like music is, I'm good at it, but it's not, I don't know.
Well, I mean, a lot of it too is, do you learn better from audio, or
I did, but
or do you visualize things? Like, do you need to have like a diagram to understand something,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I always thought that reading, because I read a lot,
Yeah.
tons and tons, and I always, and it is actually a lot. Like, I'm not peacocking there. I was reading about 100 books a year, and now it's a little bit less than that, but it's still a lot.
How is your consumed third if you're reading 100 books a year?
Because I think in other ways, I don't know. I do it a lot, but I do blasting a lot too, and
Yes.
sleeping. So I think it's not quite as important to me, and the reading is more for the experience, like how I feel when I'm reading, kind of like watching a movie or something, and
Oh,
feel for I liked fiction especially, and you feel for the characters and you feel the story and the adventure of the story. And I've started to read more nonfiction now, but I think even though I read a lot, I think I can see how consume in general. Like I often will do blast first too. Like if I start reading a nonfiction book, I can read just a little bit and pick up on something interesting, and then like talk for hours to my dad about it or something,
yeah.
before I've actually consumed anything more about it. So I have consumed, but it's just not as strong as for some people.
The blast is definitely higher up there.
Yeah, and it took me a bit to see that, because I am fairly introverted, and I didn't quite see myself as being quite as blasty.
Yeah.
um, at first, but I think I also blast a lot to myself in a sense. Like Dave and Shannon in my video were talking about, and it's very true that I'm very good at teaching myself things. I taught myself to read when I was very small, and I did that by, I think, using this kind of blast sleep sort of thing, where I could blast myself and then sleep with myself, and
Yeah.
then and
That sounds awesome.
yeah. um, and it's very helpful for learning things, I think. Yeah, I forgot what we were talking about again now.
Well, don't worry about it. Let's. I want to talk about your demon play actually. That's I think that's going to be a very interesting topic to talk about because you know if you're teaching, then it's a one-way blast. Then it's not like a free-flowing interaction,
Yeah.
between you and the student. It's like I'm here to teach you a concept, and you're here to learn this concept. You know,
Mm-hmm.
And then like if your student kind of adds into something about the concept, would you correct that student and try to get them to move a specific path, or are you flexible to go change the concept or explain it from a different direction, or how would that work for you then? Because
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm flexible. I think partly that's my feminine extroverted decider
right.
too that contributes to that. Um, so play. I mean, I have play sometimes. It's not totally missing. Um, I think there's a few ways it manifests. It's one of the reasons why I'm a little more introverted, I think, even though I have one of the extroverted functions first, but then the other two are both introverted functions. So that overall, that means I'm a little more introverted than some. And I get kind of overwhelmed and tired easily if there's too much activity going on, I guess, too much play.
What kind of activity or play energy that would kind of like exhaust you? Like,
people stuff. I can sit down and chat with someone for hours and hours and hours if I know them really well, if I'm very comfortable. But I don't know. Just anything that you're kind of doing stuff. Things in life that are all the things in life. They all feel like they're all, and especially if they're related to people, that's more overwhelming. So I have to deal with people and things at the same time and deal with all of them, and it's just hard to have the energy to keep going at it.
I guess when you run under the sun, you got to run by yourself then.
Well, that is what I'm imagining in my fantasy, I guess. I am by myself usually. I like being with other people, but it's usually kind of a one-on-one thing, and it's not energy stuff usually. I play sometimes, of course, but.
So when you're talking to someone, it's more like an intellectual conversation. Then you're not like, joking around, telling each other, cracking jokes, just being an idiot. Like it's more serious, a serious topic. We're trying to figure something out together, or problem solving maybe, or understanding a concept better.
Yeah, I appreciate humor. It's not like I'm like serious face all the time.
Right.
But I do, I found recently, especially, that in my groups of female friends, when they get together, I'm always trying to bring the conversation back to exploring ideas, I guess. And before I was kind of thinking of it like, oh, I don't like feminine things as much. But now actually I think I'm realizing it's not about that really. It's about the not enjoying the gathering of facts from people. Like they're more interested in getting information from the other person about the other person's life, or things like that. And I like that too, but not to the extent that they do.
So if you were talking to a friend one-on-one and they start telling you about their life and it's very emotional, would you get very uncomfortable then?
Yeah, it's uncomfortable if it's emotional. I can deal with it. I've had that happen where people are I think people they feel comfortable being emotional around me. It's not like I'm like, there's a stereotype about NTs especially, and maybe especially INTJs in the Myers-Briggs land, that they're all kind of, feelings, I hate them, you're stupid.
Right.
I'm not like that at all. Again, very, very feminine TE, and I'm pretty empathetic and stuff, even if it's uncomfortable, I guess.
I just I find it really interesting because I've interviewed quite a few INTJs now since starting this channel. I think the INTJs actually is the type that I've interviewed the most.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because I'm an ENFP and I naturally attract INTJs. You guys are always missing, but not to me. Like most people will never find an INTJ, right? Because according to Dave's stereotype, one of his latest videos, he actually said he never leaves his house. Like, and yet I find tons of INTJs everywhere, just for some reason that I cannot explain.
Well,
And
we don't have to leave our house. We can just do a video interview and we can just blast away all of our opinions on something.
right, and that's what I find really fascinating, is because every, with op, depending on how your functions are being hit, right? Like, someone that has, feminine play, for example, and if plays higher up on their animal stack, they act completely different from someone that doesn't have play at all. It's such a, for me, I find it very fascinating. Like you're like, no one would guess. Like, I think for you, people would be able to guess you're an INTJ, just because, if they were going by just the stereotypes, then, and I think you would kind of, the way you communicate, I think would fit the bill. Yeah, but like if someone is kind of like a really high play INTJ and they're like screaming and just partying and like doing like very un-INTJ stuff, then people would say you're not an INTJ, and then yes, when you do the op, if you get typed by op, yep, if you go through the checklist, yes, this person is an INTJ. They're not peacocking, they're not pretending to play, they are actually using play. And like, even in my own personal life, I have different INTJ friends, and they don't look like they're not even the same people. Like, one of them is more robotic, like this is the system, and he might have masculine NI,
yeah,
and when he gives me advice, he gets really upset at me when I deviate from that advice, because he would say, this is the plan and this is how you do it. And I would say, well, what about this? Nope. He'll cut me up. Nope. This is the plan and this is how you do it. I'm like, but this, now I'll mention some of the stuff that I consume, and I say, well, what about this? Nope. This is the plan. And I'll be like, oh, okay, well, I just feel tired talking to this person because I can't have a conversation. They're just force feeding me their ideas. But then I would have another INTJ friend who would be completely different. He would just be screaming all the time, hitting people, and you think, what the heck? There's no way this super extroverted person who's physically, attacking people. And when he was younger, he doesn't do that now, obviously. There's no way he's an INTJ. But but as I got older and I spoke to him, I'm like, wait a minute, this guy's an INTJ. He likes to spend time at home, a lot of time alone. He's a computer programmer as well. He definitely uses NI a lot, but I think he's a jumper because he's quite in tune with his feelings, and he doesn't seem to have any problem talking about his feelings, and he's pretty flexible with the tribe too. So I think he has masculine FI and feminine T possibly, and he seems pretty easygoing but very judgmental at the same time. And so it's a really weird combination,
My brother's a bit like that. I think he was typed as a masculine FI savior. So number 1 is masculine FI.
INTJ as well?
No, he's FI SE. So is that what I can't even
ISFP.
ISFP, yeah.
So he's very musical as well, like you are.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
And he's very strongly opinionated, and he loves to argue. I think because of that masculine FI. And he gets so passionate about his opinions on things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's actually really flexible about his opinions. And even though he'll argue you to the ground about something, maybe the next day he'll say, yeah, you had a point. You're actually right about this and that. And he's quite easygoing in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, he's easygoing. And it's always struck me as kind of a funny mix of things. I'd always thought of him as masculine extroverted decider because he was so passionate about his arguments and opinions. But it actually makes a lot of sense thinking about it that he's actually a feminine extroverted decider. It's just lower down. Anyway, it just reminded me what you were saying about your friend being a funny mix of things.
It seems like your brother might have sleep later on his stack, because if he tells you the next day that, hey, you know what, you have a point. Like he had to process it overnight almost, before he.
I think he's missing sleep. I think he was. Yeah, he must be. Consume, play, last, sleep, I guess. I have to double check. I haven't looked at his thing in a bit.
That's my animal stack.
Oh, yeah? Nice.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about your tidal waves then. Have you had any tidal waves as a result of having play less?
I've had big tidal waves of anxiety and kind of depression too, like kind of, and then those mental health stuff can be complicated because I think there's lots of different reasons why you can have depression or anxiety or whatever. So some of those reasons for me were other reasons, but I think there was an element of them that were because of the SE last, as I was talking about, and the play last too, like feeling so overwhelmed with the future that I was depressed, basically, that I couldn't see a way out of it. I couldn't cope with all of the unknown possibilities that can overwhelm me.
Is that because of your feminine NI maybe? Because you see the future, but you're unsure about the future at the same time because it is feminine,
Yeah, I think so. I actually, I just had a kind of insight about that, which is pretty much what you said while you were talking a few minutes ago. Realizing, because also I've had a bit of trouble seeing the masculine feminine part on NI and SE for me, and it just never was quite clear to me how they manifested exactly. But I think that flexibility of opinion that I've always partly attributed to feminine TE is also the feminine NI too. Like it's all kind of the patterns can mix and match and move, and it's not.
I want to talk to you about your sleep functions. Are you always kind of in a permanent preserving your energy kind of state? Just because you dream about running in the sun. You and then when you talked about when I think your dad planned a hiking trip, and you went and you absolutely loved it.
Mm-hmm.
But then you would never actually do it yourself. You would not go and plan a hiking trip yourself and do it yourself. Like would you hike by yourself, for example?
I do love walking by myself. I do a lot of walking, kind of exploratory walks, and I find it very refreshing and soothing. And I still think in my mind that I might organize my own hike one day. I don't think I would do it all by myself. I probably my partner, my husband, I'd probably do it with him now. Or with some friends. And I might still do that one day. It would just take more effort for me than like my dad. I mean, my dad definitely has play so much, and he just, let's go hiking. All these people, everybody, let's get everyone and go on this huge hike for 7 days, and let's then do this other hike, and let's do this, and all the people all the time.
What type do you think your dad is?
Well, he definitely has play.
Yeah.
He definitely, I'm pretty sure he's an F. I think I have to think about it more. We've always thought of him as an ENFP, and I wouldn't be surprised if he were. And he's a bit like you. Like you're interviewing all these people, right? And that's what he does all the time. He meets new people and he goes right to. So tell me about all these personal things, and he wants to hear more about people's lives and their personalities and how they work and stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if he were something a little similar to you. Probably Probably missing sleep. Yeah. He'd be missing sleep. That's actually one of the easiest things for me to type in people, I find, is which function they're missing.
Yeah.
It's often more obvious than any, for me at least.
And do you get overwhelmed by your dad, or do you feel refreshed by his energy?
Almost all the time I'm refreshed.
Oh.
I come from a big family. I have a lot of siblings, and I think he and my brother are some of the people that I got along with most.
The ISFP brother?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
And for my dad, yeah, I liked every once in a while I'd be a bit overwhelmed or a bit embarrassed or something. But he's very understanding, I guess. And yeah, no, I got along with him really great, actually.
So do you feel like he kind of like rounds you out, almost like whatever you don't really use, like let's say play, he uses it a lot, so you feel like more rounded as a, kind of being fed by your missing play? Because I have sleep last, right? And whenever I hang out with people with sleep first, let's say an INFP or whatever, I actually feel really good after spending time with them. I feel like whatever I was missing, I got off this person.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it feels that way for you. Like, you don't have sleep, but if someone forces you, or sorry, you don't have play, but if someone forces you to use play, it actually feels a little bit refreshing.
Yeah. No, those hikes, as I mentioned, they're great, amazing experiences. And yeah, I think me and my dad definitely, funnily enough, he's started to actually come seeking my advice a lot the last number of years, which seems funny in some ways because he's the parent and I'm the child. But I think maybe it's appreciating my sleep that he doesn't have.
Yeah.
And he just needs, he has everything. He just hasn't quite been able to do the sleep work that was necessary.
Right.
And yeah, I definitely, and I'm pretty sure, I'm not totally sure, but I'm pretty sure he's extroverted intuition too. So I can get a lot of new ideas from him, basically. See, I definitely gather new ideas, but a lot of it is taking the current ideas I have and kind of putting them together, mulling over them and stuff. And he injects some new, fresh, interesting stuff.
What about your partner? What is your partner's type? Would you guess?
Oh, he's hard. I've thought about it a lot. He's missing blast for sure. That's the easiest part. He's got to be missing blast.
He's procrastinating a lot.
Huh?
He's a big procrastinator.
In some ways, yeah. I mean, he said himself. He said, "I have trouble starting things," and he said that very word.
Yeah.
Once he gets going on something, he does it. Like, he's a really hard worker. So you think of procrastinators as people who are kind of lazy or something, and he works hard.
Right.
He has trouble kind of changing track a bit, starting a new thing. Yeah.
Is he? Would you say he's also? Does he have high play or low play? Would you say?
I'd think high. I have to. He's one of those ones that's a little tricky, and I have to kind of really sit down and make it work, figure out how it can all work together and do cross checks and stuff. I have thought that play was one of his top two animals. It would make sense to me. And he also helps me not exactly do things, but kind of keep at things, I guess, and takes me out of my last sleep mulling thing.
Yeah.
And anxiety and stuff where I'm kind of in my head going, and he just kind of goes, all right, just stop it. Let's just do this thing.
Now you have double activated NI also.
Yeah.
So would you say you pretty much get drunk off using your NI, because it's not only your first function, it's also double activated.
Yeah.
So it sounds like would you be, I mean, even talking to you, I can see you kind of like always going back to that NI like repeatedly, kind of nonstop, like you're always like looking back into your like known information.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that the biggest thing I learned from you so far, if I were to kind of just the observation I made is, I think you're the very definition of someone that is afraid of chaos. Just because, but I didn't know. I thought it was because of that low SE, or the low SE. But now I'm thinking maybe it's the feminine NI that's causing the anxiety, because you see stuff, but at the same time you're not confident. About what you see.
Yeah. I think a lot of my growth recently in dealing with my anxiety has been sort of combining the NI and FI, in a sense, not quite sleep. I don't quite mean that, but like I have the ideas and I kind of have a strong gut feeling, I guess, understanding that it's good and right, but it's really hard to trust it because of the TE partly, and because of the feminine FI and whatever. And that gets me in this anxious spinning
anxious loop.
Yeah. It's funny, the definition of fear of chaos you were saying, because I didn't see that before. I didn't see myself as a introverted observer primary, because I was seeing the liking change, and I haven't had a job for more than a year and a half or something, because I like different things and I like new things, and I moved across the country with no job yet and no place to live yet, and I just kind of went, I want to go, and I went, and things like that excite me and interest me. But at the same time, like, I think that's where people get caught up in their typing, is they see things like that, but it's not actually the deeper truth, I guess. And the deeper truth for me is that at the heart of it all, there's this fear of chaos.
What's really interesting for me is, like, you said things like, you move all of a sudden, and moving all of a sudden, that's a very spontaneous kind of act, right?
Yeah.
And it's not like you did it just once. You did it seems like you've done it more than once.
Yeah, basically, never quite that extreme, more than once, but
it sounds like it was because of the masculine SE, like you had like a swing, like you swang from that uncertain introvert intuition, kind of like your future, and you kind of have like like the like a fuck it moment, pretty much, and
basically you have some good insights. I liked. Good.
Yeah, and then you just swang, and and also because you have masculine FI, you're like, I like this, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
And you jump in and you did it, and you did it with confidence.
Yeah.
Like, yes, there was uncertainty with your plan, but you trusted the certainty and the confidence, and the confidence was with the masculine SE and the masculine FI. This is what I want, and I'm gonna do it. But you probably mulled over it for a while before you press the trigger.
I did, yes. That one big move, it was like 3 weeks. But I'd been mulling over that I needed change in my life for a long time before that. So there was a long time of kind of, what's the best? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? And then at one point, my dad said, why don't you just move to Ottawa? And after all of that mulling, then it was that basically like, yeah, fuck it, I feel like it, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
So then in 3 weeks I just
So you live in Victoria right now, right?
yeah.
Or Victoria
Yeah,
Island?
close to you.
Yeah, we're pretty close by. So you moved from Victoria to Ottawa then, and then
Yeah.
you went back to Victoria. Is
Yeah.
that what you did? And in Ottawa, is that where the farm was that you were at?
It was, yeah, like west, northwest or something of Ottawa. It was kind of in the middle of nowhere, so it wasn't close to the city
And
or
what kind of was it, like woofing? What did you do there? Like
yeah, it's
you got a free accommodation to work in a farm, right? So
yeah. Yeah, so it's funny, it's there's this community called Madonna House, and it's a religious Catholic Christian community, but
yeah.
they all sorts of people come there. Um, and you have to follow their schedule and stuff, but you don't have to be religious. But a couple of my friends had gone and really liked it, so that's where I heard about it. And yeah, so they have a big farm that they feed everyone who's there basically, and they get some outside food to supplement it, but I would say the majority of it is from their farm probably. So the food was amazing. It was so good. Um,
And what kind of work did you do in that farm?
well, I was really hoping to be like doing kind of heavy labor stuff.
Yeah.
But you don't actually get to pick where you're assigned, and I was assigned to laundry.
Oh.
But actually, it turned out to be really nice in the end because, especially in the summer, there was a lot of hanging clothes up, and there was a lot of carrying of big baskets, huge big baskets of laundry, which was partly I wanted the heavy labor, manual labor part of things. So I kind of got, heavy labor in the sun. I did get not quite what I was expecting, but
Did you like it?
yeah, it was hard, the experience as a whole. I didn't like it as much as my friends thought I would. I think they really loved that place, and sort of the culture wasn't quite suited to me, I guess. And um, but it was very good. It was a very good experience, and it really helped me.
So you have the same sexual modalities as Dave, and
Yeah, I was gonna
and
mention.
I was kind of just thinking about him, like, and thinking about what you're talking about, like with your life, and how you in a weird way, you were kind of craving that, like, just physical, like just living in a physical world, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Where, you're doing manual labor, you're using your body to build something or to organize something. And then, when Dave talks about his videos, or in the class, he talks about, like, he does his own renovations now. I don't know. I don't know if you knew this, but he has, like, I think a 1 year supply of gasoline in his house,
Nice.
and like he has like a I don't know, 1 year supply of toilet paper too.
Oh yeah, I did hear about that, I think.
And yeah, and then he organizes tools, and he works with he just spent 1 year doing, like, manual labor stuff, and it almost in a weird way, like a lot of you people who have masculine SE as a demon almost craves to live in that world, like it's there, maybe there's something more simple about it,
Yeah.
like, cause see, when you live in NI and it's uncertain, like, that's where you get your freak out almost, like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, I can kind of see it, but I'm not sure, and that is uncertain, right? But, like, when you live in SE world, like, working with your hands essentially,
Yeah.
um, it's simple. Like, if you want to fix something, then there's it's like black and white. Like, there's like a certain way to fix it, and it's done, and you can see the result, right? There's nothing's lying to you, right? So I don't know if that brings you comfort, when you see that. Or
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I've been a lot more, not exactly fixing things, but a lot more into that kind of stuff. Like I've been cooking a lot recently. And to me that's kind of a whole new thing, and just being really interested in even how things taste because I was always really picky growing up, and partly that was just because, I don't know, food was really boring, and I didn't like everything. And now there's like, I make all these things and try them, and just so much
Variety.
and I guess so much feeling there's in more of a physical sense,
Yeah.
of making it and of eating it, and it's really, really cool. It's kind of, I feel really awesome. I get these little stabs of joy. I guess it's a weird way of putting it, but when I'm thinking about it or doing it, because it's this whole new area for me, and it's really cool. Okay.
Just taking the time to kind of try a food and really enjoy the whole process, like the cooking, the eating part, and and then I think when you were talking about the food you were eating in the farm, your face kind of brightened up. You're like, oh my god, it was so delicious, like what kind of, was it? They're all organic, I suppose, because you're eating um just I guess the vegetables and the meat from the farm.
Yeah, meat from the farm, vegetable. The dairy was really good, like their yogurt and stuff was super great. There's a couple people there who are really good at cooking too, so some of it was just that it was done really well. I started to discover a love of vegetables there too, which I never liked at all really before. Yeah.
When we were having this talk today, it didn't seem like you had any big tidal waves, and then I kind of referred to it as a quiet tidal wave. But then you mentioned, but then when I mentioned it again later on, when I said you had a big swing, from like uncertain NI to certain SE, what would you call that then? If that's not a tidal wave, would you if that's not a quiet tidal wave, would you just call that like a swing, just like a hobby, almost like you wanted to dabble into that? Or how would you kind of describe kind of like that big shift from your double activated NI to your masculine SE all of a sudden,
Right. So like all of a sudden moving or something, like those sorts of things.
Yeah, because you're always preserving your energy and you tend to stick with the known. And then boom, out of nowhere you move, and then you're in a farm and you're having the time of your life, like it's just like such a massive change, right?
Yeah.
But when people take massive action or a sudden action, there was a trigger, and a trigger usually is in a form of a tidal wave.
Yeah.
Now your tidal wave was, it just seemed so quiet that it didn't seem like a tidal wave. But did you feel like there was something bubbling up inside, like something that was about to erupt? Like,
yeah, I think maybe less that it's quiet and more that it was slow.
Yeah.
The idea of a tidal wave seems like all of a sudden, and more it's that it had been kind of slowly building for years, sort of dissatisfaction, I guess. Like it started before I even had the job, because before I had the office job, well, I was in school, I guess, before then. And so it was kind of more of the same. And I had a bunch of co-op jobs through school. So, and they were all kind of along the same track. So if you take the 5 years of school with the job, it was kind of during all that time that it was building slowly and slowly. Yeah. So it's kind of what I was saying before about preparing for it. Like, it seems really abrupt, and it was in some ways, but in other ways there was a lot of time spent mulling over, not being happy, I guess, and at that time, especially, like at the end of school, was my worst time of being depressed, and so some of that was really spiraling down in circles, and that too, it's a little bit more of a slow thing. It's not like, So I don't know a better word than tidal wave. What's something that kind of slowly
the only thing I can think of, and this sounds kind of silly, is like there's like a science experiment where, when like someone takes vinegar and they put baking soda and it kind of like erupts, right?
Yeah.
It seems like they didn't put that much baking soda, so it kind of just slowly kind of
Yeah.
went up, and it wasn't quite an explosion, but it did bubble up and it did have a mini eruption, but it was so small that it didn't seem that dramatic.
Yeah.
I actually want to ask you, have you ever had like a huge emotional outburst before where you just screamed and never?
No, no. I've had kind of crying fits, I guess. And I usually go hide in my room where no one can see me and cry passionately. But I've never, like, I don't ever get mad, basically. I mean, there's a bit of maybe passionate opinionness every once in a while. But I don't really get angry at people. And the biggest fight I can think of that I've had with someone was, again, it was really slow. So there was never any screaming involved or anything. It was just kind of this slow build of dissatisfaction, and then slowly things kind of got worse, and that's it.
This is ever since I started talking to you, you remind me of another INTJ I saw online.
Yeah.
He's a male though, but you guys like have like the same mannerism, same speech pattern. I think you should look him up. His name is Andrew Henderson.
Andrew Henderson.
Andrew Henderson.
Andrew Henderson?
Yeah, he wrote a book called Nomadic Capitalism. It's a really good book. And kind of like the way you describe your life right now, kind of like, with your feminine NI, uncertainty about the future. I feel like my gut tells me that he also has feminine NI and masculine S, maybe masculine SE. I'm not really sure. But it seems like maybe he was uncertain about the future and he was looking for a way out, and he created a business around, protecting yourself, essentially, your assets and stuff. And maybe a lot of it is paranoia, a lot of it is preventing chaos from happening. I don't know, but it seems very feminine NI, but I don't know. That's just an assumption that I'm making, but like even if you look at his picture, I don't know if you have him on your computer right now.
No, I don't. I just wrote down his name, but I didn't.
Yeah, if you look at Andrew Henderson on Google, and he has a website called Nomadic Capitalism. He has like just a very similar like look as you, even like
Right.
yeah, you should look him up right now. Actually, I would like to see your reaction to.
I am right now. I'm looking at him.
Yeah, what do you think?
I could see it, I think.
Like, you should watch his videos of him talking. He's definitely very blasty also. And the way he talks, he kind of like, goes inside a lot, and before he spits out kind of like what he wants to say, he'll like think about it first, and then he'll talk about it, and he might be self above tribe though. That might be the difference between.
Yeah, like a jumper thing. I like this quote of his here. Imperfect action is always better than perfect inaction.
Yeah.
Great. I really like that.
Yeah, his book is fantastic. The Nomadic Capitalist. It's cheap too. It's like $2 or something. Okay. something for you to consume if you'd like.
Yeah. I'll look into it.
Yeah, but I just like when you were talking to me about all this stuff. I don't know why that popped up. I am a consume addict. I consume. Like when I do consume, it's not quite the same as you. Like maybe you like, so you like to consume fiction, right? Which I also do when I was younger. But now that I'm older, I consume almost like 90% nonfiction stuff. And also when I consume stuff, it tends to be from multiple different topics. It's not going to be like just one singular topic. I like a variety.
I am actually a bit like that too. Like I more now, just more recently, the last few years, I've started reading more nonfiction, mostly nonfiction. And I think it tends to be, I don't know, I think of it as varied, but I'm not sure if it actually.
And what kind of topics in nonfiction would you read?
Well, what have there been recently? Cooking, sex. I recently found this guy called Malcolm Gladwell, and I really, really like him. He really appeals to me, his style. And he just kind of writes about different topics. His best one probably is called Outliers. So it's about people who are, I guess, stand out or outlying from the norm.
10,000 hours.
Yeah, he's the 10,000 hours guy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I found him really, he's one of the people like I could just listen to a little bit and then have a lot to think about. And applying one thing he said to a lot of different things.
Do you think it's also because his writing style seems like it has masculine, facts, like he respects the facts, and he's gathered the facts to back up his claim, like why were certain people outliers, and then he kind of referred to Michael Jordan, the Beatles, and Bill Gates, and he said, well, what did they all have in common? Well, they all spent 10,000 hours working on their craft.
I always thought it was a little less about the factual part, because I think I often tend to skip over that, actually.
Okay.
Unless I have to do it for school or something. Like if I have to, I can. But for a lot of books that say, okay, and here's the facts of it, I don't totally skip over it, but I don't focus on it as much. I think it's more because he's relating all of these different things to one central idea. So what you were saying, like Bill Gates and Mozart and blah, 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 like all these different people in different areas and different circumstances all fit into this one idea.
I see.
And he does that a lot. Like he'll start with some random thing, and then he'll have another random thing and show that they both can be caused possibly by this one idea, which seems somewhat NI to me.
Yeah, that's very NI, because like, I don't know if you know Tim Ferriss, but he
was on my sheet of examples that Dave and Shannon gave me.
Oh, is Tim Ferriss the same as you?
Huh?
Is Tim Ferriss the same as you, or?
Exactly, but he's INTJ, so he's masculine,
yeah.
and ITE. I think blast play. No, he's missing play too, because he's all into conserving energy. So.
Yeah, and he couldn't swim apparently, or something like that.
Yeah. So the main difference then, I guess, is that he's masculine TE.
So whenever he interviews someone, and he interviews tons of people, like he even wrote 2 books on it, right? Like Tools of Titan and Tribe of Mentors.
Mm-hmm.
He'll always ask him the same question. Like what are the what product did you buy that cost $100 or less that made the most impact to you, or it's always the same question that he asks everybody, and it's very NI, right? Like very like specific. Well, like if someone was using NE, maybe they wouldn't be talking about that. But you know what? I did discover something recently, is that FI is quite similar to NI in a way, in that it's very singular. So like I'll give you an example. Whenever I interview people, I do have one thing in common, and I'm trying to figure out people's FI. Like I'm trying to figure out who you are.
Right.
Like I want to know you, and like everything that has to do with you. Like what makes you a unique person from someone else, even though you're the same animal or type as someone. You've had a different experience in your life, and those all kind of contribute to the way you are as a person today. And I find that with FI, it's people's behavior tends to be dictated by their values. And so I'm trying to figure out what your values are, to see kind of like the pattern of why you're acting the way you are, because some people would say one thing but they do something else, right? And you could say, you're like, okay, well, this person's fickle, right? Because this person is, they don't do what they say they're going to do, for example. And then you kind of lose trust in them, right? But then at the end of the day, the best thing to approach it is to actually look at the person. It's like, okay, what is their pattern? Like, what do they always do? Because the action speaks louder than words. So you can kind of like, I'm using my NF talk now, but I'm always trying to derive the pattern of someone. Like everyone has a recurring story almost, and I'm trying to kind of like funnel that recurring story into like one singular thing, which is who are you? It
all sounds a lot like my dad. That's like just what he does with people too.
Yeah, and like, so when you talk to someone that's an ENFP or ENTP, maybe what ENTP would use TI more, right? Like, what is the truth, right? Or that, as David Chan would say. Now for me, it's like, who are you? Who is the real you? It's like the real you, the authentic you, right? It's like, it's a little bit different, but it's, at the end of the day, it's still looking for the truth, right? It's like seeking some kind of honesty in for me, it's in the form of a human being, right? While like someone who has strong TI is looking for like an idea, right? Like what is the accuracy of this idea? Is it foolproof, right? So and I think because you're an INTJ, you do have that accuracy with the NI and the FI, so you can see the accuracy of an individual and also kind of like build on that idea. But then if you look at FI also, you're also building the character of a person, because if you're always trying to act in so many different ways and you don't build in your own, like I'll use your demons as an example. So if you don't work on your demons, then your demons is not going to grow, essentially. Like it's always going to be a weakness, right? It's like going to the gym and building muscle, right? Like you have to do the same exercise essentially for a set amount of period of time before you should switch your program. Otherwise, you're not going to make any progress. And yes, it is boring to keep working on that one thing. And a lot of those exercise you hate. So like if I were to use exercise terms, like, most people hate squats, right? Or leg day, right? So people hate leg day. I don't know if you're aware of that, but so because I work in the fitness industry. So, everyone hates working out their legs because it's hard. Like you feel like crap afterwards. You feel like you're going to puke, your legs are jelly, you walk funny, no, people are always trying to avoid that leg day, or at least going hard on the leg day. And I find that has a direct correlation to like your personality type, right? Like for us, if we're avoiding the demon, then how can we function properly? Like it's like I like to use leg day also because I think it's a good just a very good concept, because your legs essentially gets you moving in life, right? And if your legs is weak, that's your base, right? And if people are avoiding to work on their legs, especially dudes, but or a lot of girls too, because they don't want to have thick legs, right? So it's like they're avoiding kind of like their base, their mobility, their movement, right? But like it's kind of like with your demon. If you are avoiding building your demon, then essentially you are avoiding your base also, like what could make you more balanced. So in your case, you have a lot of anxiety, but it seems like you have less anxiety when you are indulging that SE.
Mm-hmm.
That's just from my observation based on what you said earlier. And, and I find that people with FI will take the time to figure out what their weakness are and actually, I'm just speculating. So I don't know with people with FE, but I'm just speculating that people with FI are more likely to go work on their true selves, find their true selves first. So once they identify their identity, then go work on that identity and build it up to make it strong so that they can function properly in life, which is essentially preventing, tidal waves from occurring, right? Again, I don't know TI, so people with FE and TI, I mean, I don't want to like, say anything bad about them because maybe it's similar. I don't know, because I don't have TIs. I don't really have an opinion on that. But FI seems like this, just because I have a lot of FE friends in my life, and I did notice that the ones who are who are drunk on their saviors are almost stagnant in their life than people who actually indulge on their demons.
Yeah. That seems pretty accurate.
Yeah. So Rachel, we're gonna go wrap this up pretty soon. I do want to ask you two things before we wrap this up. So first is, do you have any questions from me that you would like to know about someone that is using NE, or something about a function that an ENFP has that you don't have and you don't understand, and maybe you want to learn more about, so I can kind of explain it to you?
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to hear more. I feel like it would take like another hour.
Well, you can ask about one thing, because I have NE and SI, so I can maybe explain one of those, or something else if you would prefer.
Right. Um, oh, I don't know. I definitely want to know about it, but I'm finding it hard to formulate a question exactly. Is there something really interesting about NE that you really like about it? That you found really interesting that you want to share?
Well, I use it all the time, so it's oh,
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's hard to, yeah.
well, I mean, like, I had an interview with an ISFP. His name's Julian. He lives in Vancouver also, ironically, like in the same area as us. And we were talking about exercising, and he said that, he would gather so much facts about that one topic because he has NI. He was a jumper, so his NI is quite strong, right?
Mm.
And he would scour the internet for kind of like the best system to get the best result for the exercise, for the exercise that he's doing, right? So for him, he's trying to build muscle. So he's scouring the internet for the best muscle building program, essentially. And he's gathered all the facts that you need to execute upon to get that result that you're looking for. Then I asked him an interesting question. I'm like, well, in order for you to get the results that you want, yes, obviously, if you scour the internet and get close to 100% of all the facts and information that you need to get the result that you want, then definitely you're gonna produce, a good amount of result. However, when it comes to fitness, it's not just about the exercise. It also involves nutrition, sleep, and stress reduction. So I asked him, what is your system for sleep, for maximizing your sleep? What is your system for maximizing stress reduction? And what is your system for maximizing the benefits of nutrition? And he didn't research those areas just because he was focusing on the NI, which is just one topic, right? Well, NE saw all those other ones, and I'm not gonna go deep and hit 100% on that one area.
Mm-hmm.
I would maybe go 80% on each or 70% on each.
Mm-hmm.
But I would argue that perhaps I would get a better result, not assuming that your genetics is just not superior to mine, just as with because I also incorporated those other topics. So I see kind of NE kind of like, kind of like with your NI, you kind of fear that there's something that's going to hit you and you don't know what that is, right? Like you have a plan for the future, but you don't know what's going to hit you. But with NE, we actually see all the problems coming in. Like we see, it's almost automatic, and it's a good thing because we see the problems coming in, but it's bad because we're always anxious because we know it's coming.
Yeah.
And because we have that weak SI, right? SI is all about discipline, right? The weak SI, even though we can see the problem coming, we procrastinate to execute on diffusing those problems, just because, like we don't want to control ourselves, kind of like NE is all obsession with freedom, and SI is control. And we don't want to control ourselves, and we don't want to do the necessary boring things that you would have to do in order to have that self-discipline and self-control to achieve the right things. And if you had the right self-control and you manage your time properly, yes, you can kill off all those potential problems coming your way, because we see those problems very clearly. Actually, we just don't want to deal with it. So it's a little bit different from NI, where you don't see it coming. Like you can see, you have a goal in mind and you're trying to go for that goal, but you feel like there's something that's going to hit you along the way, but you don't know what that is, and that kind of freaks you out.
Mm-hmm.
We see that coming, but we're not doing anything about it. So I don't know if you find that quite interesting. But
so you're a single observer too, right?
yeah, we're both single observers.
You're any
No insider, so we don't really have like our people problem is not as huge as
yeah.
Like material problems. Like a few days ago, my drone's controller broke, and I was freaking out. Right, I was like, oh my god, like I have to go, put this in an envelope now. I have to go buy some stamps. I have to go ship it in a post office. I have to go contact the company. I have to, give them the exact details of the issue. They're gonna ask me for my receipt. They're gonna ask me for the details when I purchased the product, which company I purchased it from, blah blah blah. And then that was killing me, right? Like thinking of all this like little sensory details that I have to go through just to get my little drone repaired. Not to mention it's gonna cost a lot of money to get it repaired. So that to me was like, oh my god. And the thing is, I saw it coming too. I knew what I was dealing. I just didn't. Obviously I'm working on personal development, so I actually I'm on top of things.
Yeah.
But not without massive amounts of stress. Like I want to kill myself essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. No, something like that for me, it would more be stressful, I think, because of the lack of play, like just kind of overwhelming a bit. Yeah. But I could do it. Like I can do the organizational thing, but it'd be tiring.
Yeah, for sure. So Rachel, do you have any message for any INTJs out there who is freaking out over their future? Like they have a plan or a goal that they want to reach, yet they're freaked out about what could possibly hit them. And from your life experience or your own opinion, maybe you can use blast here if you prefer. How would you recommend that they tackle this situation? What solution have you found to at least reduce the damage of this fear and chaos?
There's lots of little practical things you can do, of course, like mindfulness meditation was huge for me. That was really great. And journaling and exercising and, lots of little physical things. But I think maybe one of the ideas that kind of helped me is that in a funny way, the unknowns coming are both a blessing and a curse, I guess. Like you're afraid of unknown things happening, but actually at the same time, it's, if I can explain this right, it's great because because random wild things happen all the time, and you never really know where your life is going to turn out. So for me, at least, like I kind of obsess about this one area and this one possibility, and what if something happens and what's going to happen. But it's too narrow. Like actually what happens is you go on with life and you're obsessing about this little thing. What if it happens? But instead of that one thing happening, your life goes in something else, in a totally different, it's totally different. Like you can't, how can I don't know if that's sounding very consoling, but I'm not explaining it very well. But like instead of, you don't have to worry about this little thing in your life, because life is so much bigger and stranger and more random and interesting than you think it is when you're in this circular state of thinking about what could happen in the future, I guess.
All right, Rachel. Well, thanks for that insight. And
you're welcome.
Don't think you're not explaining it properly. I think if someone was an ST, they would not know what you're talking about. But yeah. Like I think NF and NTs would probably get what you're saying. So I get completely what you're saying, even though it's kind of like a lot of like like I get 100% what you're saying.
Okay, cool.
All right. Well, Rachel, it was great interviewing you, and I'm gonna stop the recording pretty soon. So it was awesome. So talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you. That was really great.